Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this lunch and learn session during the Innov865 week. We are happy that you guys are here. We'll get started as more people join in. So let me share my screen. I hope you can see my slides. So yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kusum Rathore. I'm the Vice President for the Multi-Campus Office of UTRF here in Knoxville. And I would like to welcome you all for this lunch and learn session. Today, we will be talking about one of the newer initiatives of UTRF, the Executive in Residence program. So before we jump in, I'd like to spend a minute to understand what is UTRF, what we do, and where we sit as compared to the University of Tennessee. So UT System is a statewide organization with campuses all across the state. It's the instrumentality of the state of Tennessee. And UT has an annual budget of close to a little over $3 billion, which is partially straight appropriation, the tuition, and the sponsored program and the research dollars that come into the university. So the research dollars and the educational component that is happening at UT leads to innovations and create IP, and that's where UTRFs comes in the picture. We work under an operating agreement for service with the University of Tennessee. We are a separate 501c3 organization that is there to protect and commercialize the intellectual property and the innovations that happen all across the University of Tennessee. So we have a pretty wide portfolio of over 300 active technologies at any given time, technologies and innovations coming from all across the state. We have a portfolio of 42 active startups currently, and UTRF also manages several subsidiaries for profit and nonprofit across the state of Tennessee. So as a tech transfer and the commercialization office, we have a four-pronged mission. Our first mission is to protect, manage, and commercialize UT's innovations. We want to support UT's research in every possible way. And these both goals should lead to an entrepreneurial culture that's developed across the state, and that should lead to economic development for the state and the region. So those are the four-pronged missions under which UTRF operates. And to be successfully working towards our missions, we have two new latest initiatives that we are working on, and I would like to introduce them to you here, and also let you know how our EIRs fit in these programs, and then we'll have a chance to talk to our EIRs that are working with us currently. So the first big initiative is a $5 million Accelerate Fund. This is a fund set up to help UTRF startups that are based on UT's IP. The other program is the Venture Launch Program that trains our fellows and students to become entrepreneurs. And talking a little bit detail about the Accelerate Fund, the goal and the mission of this fund is to invest in great ideas. We would love for us to have a reputation where UT and UTRF are seen as institutions that invest in tech-based companies that are developed here in Tennessee. The goal is to mentor these entrepreneurs to become successful businessmen and business people, and create good companies that stay in the state of Tennessee, and we can attract investors, create jobs, and other opportunities in the state. The investment in this fund is up to $150K for all any of the university-based startups that are developed here. We have a 9-member advisory committee. This committee consists of investors, serial entrepreneurs, and industry leaders who are happy to join this initiative with us to provide feedback, recommendations, connections to our startups to be successful. The other program that we are working on, the Venture Launch Program, and is where we are finding these early stage technologies that have potential to become startups, finding fellows, postdoctoral fellows or postmaster students who have technologies that they have worked on and they have a potential of becoming, great businesses. So this is where we are working with our executives in residence. They help us find and train these pre-startup companies and make them understand the world of entrepreneurship, mentor them, provide advice and insights in various aspects of developing a business. And then hopefully these people develop startups that can come and be part of our Accelerate Fund. So we're trying to create like a circular model where we develop research and innovations at UT. We train our fellows to become successful entrepreneurs. They invest in, they become part of our Accelerate Fund, and they invest again in the society so that we can keep creating more startups in the state of Tennessee. So talking about the EIRs, the Executives in Residence program that we want to discuss today. So our EIRs are people who have done this process successfully already. They are here to provide their expertise to help us identify potential new startups, work with these startups by offering them various kinds of consulting services, helping them with investments and strategic thinking and networking. We need these EIRs to definitely help our existing startups be more successful, but equally important to explore potential new startups and opportunities that are being developed currently at UT. We would need their help to identify specific technologies and the personnel who have the entrepreneurial inclination and could lead to a successful startup. And again, like I said, hopefully feed in good companies into UTRF's Accelerate Fund pipeline. This is just a slide talking a little bit about the roles of EIRs, but they have several roles based on the needs of the technology and the company. But overarchingly, they help us with evaluating the technologies and the processes for the startups that are trying to form. They work with our technology managers to identify potential startups. They assist our startups with identifying better customers, to understanding value proposition, to help them build their minimum viable product. They help companies assist with SBIR and STTR applications when time comes, help them with gap analysis, and provide them coaching for business model and presentation development and anything else to be a successful business. And I'm going to kind of throw a UTRF plug in here. UTRF startup with Reform 3D with founders Alex Stiles and Dustin Gilmer won the competition, the startup pitch competition yesterday. So our EIRs were helping the team and helping the company, prepare for pitches. So we are happy about our startup winning. Congratulations to Wit Reform, and thank you to our EIRs for helping in the process. So a kind of good segue. We're going to be talking to our EIRs, Bob Vanderhoff and Ryan Ginder. They are here with us. So I think they can turn on their cameras and mics. And we have a few questions prepared for them, but we'll be happy to answer questions as you guys have as we go along. But to start off, maybe I'll start with Bob. You're there on top of the screen. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and working with UTRF?
Yeah, I'm glad to. Thank you. I come to UTRF with about 40 years of experience in global manufacturing and distribution, the home
I
improvement
can't hear
market.
you.
You cannot hear me? Can you hear, Ryan, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Ryan, you can hear him?
Mhm.
Can everybody else hear him? Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Bob.
Okay. So experience in the home improvement industry and consulting in roles as a CEO, a COO, president, and other high-level executive positions. I've had the privilege of working in private equity-owned businesses, family-owned businesses, private and public businesses, and also was part of the management team that took a company public on the New York Stock Exchange. My experience in manufacturing ranges from companies that made wire and cable to capital equipment for dispensing composite materials and also solar panels. I've led companies in the electrical and industrial distribution space, and also ran the Sears Home Improvement and franchise businesses for a period of time. As a consultant, I've worked in manufacturing, distribution, nonprofit, coffee industry. That was really nice. Commercial office, equipment manufacturer, energy solution providers, and others. I've worked in everything from startups all the way running companies that were $1 billion in revenue, and also worked with companies that were all the way up to 50 billion in size. So I have a pretty wide range of experiences that I think would be helpful as I engage as an EIR here.
Awesome. Thank you. There's a feedback. But Ryan, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So for my part, my background is obviously a kind of a hybrid on both the academic research side as well as on the business side. So I've been in material science and engineering related research for many years at this point, starting at UT in was it 2011 as a graduate student, kind of working the way up. But kind of in parallel to that, I've also kind of had quite the entrepreneurial experience, and that I guess my first taste was when I helped my wife launch her own behavioral health business here in Knoxville, my last year of graduate school, and worked with her to take that from 2 employees and a hole in the wall to 56 employees in a 14,000 square foot facility. So getting to kind of experience on both the R&D funding sources and things like that when you're dealing with early stage technologies and how to support those and develop those, but also kind of getting exposure on both growing a business as well as dealing with various large industrial entities that are interested in these kinds of technologies. And along the way, I'd say that's kind of what inspired me to take one of the technologies I created at UT and form a startup around that, which I worked on for couple of years and then eventually sold. And so have firsthand experience working directly with UTRF, going through the licensing process, building the business from the ground up, going through all of the unique experience of fundraising, working with both private and government entities, customer interviews, the works of trying to build something up from the ground. So that's kind of the high level, my experience in both hybridizing academia, government, and business.
Awesome. And while I have you, Ryan, I'll start the next question with you. Can you talk a little bit about some of the technologies and your or the companies that you're working with while you're with us at UTRF?
Of course. So as I mentioned, my background has been in a lot of material science and sustainability. So most of the companies I'm working with are look at marrying basically new performance materials with sustainability. So for example, circular economy materials, where we're able to take what are current waste streams and convert them back into high value products that not only serve important local markets, but also reduce the ecological footprint of different industries such as building materials, transportation, and so forth. A lot of them focus on waste reduction and other aspects of that. So it's kind of a hybrid of building a better mousetrap while at the same time making it more eco-friendly. And so that's kind of where a lot of the focus has been. Now, my background in composites has lent itself to working with several composite-related companies in glass and fabrics, textiles, and different products. But I've interacted with quite a different range of OEMs in transportation, energy, and so forth, and been working with companies to penetrate those markets.
Awesome. So Bob, can you also talk a little bit about the types of technologies and companies that you are interacting with?
Oh, you're muted, Bob.
Okay, that was me that time. Yeah, my range of view with the companies I'm working with range from a field in transportation where they're collecting data for Scope 3 emissions, which is driven mostly by the state of California and Europe. Working with a company that's involved in nuclear fusion, trying to validate a theory and get to a point where they can build a power plant, to a company that's dealing with athletic turf and testing and making recommendations on the footwear, to a device used in manufacturing, mostly in CNC machines that would be used from a preventative perspective, monitoring the performance and noticing any deviations from that performance, to a company that's involved in the bioplastic market, dealing with enzymes and dealing with products and landfill. And then also there's a company that I'm dealing with that has an app that would be used in the manufacturing process, mostly in 3D printing. So a wide range of companies with a wide range of industries that they're looking at, but it's a lot of fun and exciting.
Great. And maybe Bob, you can help us take the next question. But I understand you guys are working with companies at various stages, like some very early on conceptual companies to some which are further along. But if you could summarize top 3 things that companies need the most help with.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that, what I've noticed, one would be a strategy or a business plan, kind of a myriad of both. Number 2, an investor strategy, which would include a deck, but really, okay, based on your business plan, what do you need from investors, and how do we present that? And then number 3, kind of the drive and the sense of urgency about getting to market. Again, that is predicated on a lot of different factors, but those are the 3 things that I noticed during my time here.
Awesome. And what about you, Ryan? What are the 3 things that your companies need most help with?
So from my experience working with various folks, I'd say kind of number 1 would be organization. So nobody's kind of born knowing how to create a business, particularly when many of them are coming out of the more academic research environment. So helping them kind of build that business structure from the ground up, which is partially paperwork and how you form the corporation, all the different meeting minutes and stuff you have to create. But as we work on kind of both creating that paper trail and actually getting it organized so they know where stuff is, it helps us to kind of identify deeper structural questions that oftentimes people, when they're first getting started, don't necessarily think about, such as kind of the trail of accountability and decision making within the company, and thinking about what that's going to look like long term, who's making what decisions, and how should that be reflected in the actual structure of the business. So that's a key thing that both, I think, has helped many of these companies better understand how their team works, but also I think in the long run will give them a much better chance at being able to secure, for example, external funding and things like that as they go down the road, showing that they have their house very much in order. And that is very attractive to an investor, to see that you're on top of things. Kind of the next thing I would say, it kind of builds off what Bob was talking about, is ultimately their narrative. What is the vision they're trying to sell here? Do you have a problem that is actually worth solving? And if you do, is that an actual business solution to this? And then, okay, what are all the pieces of this puzzle that need to go together to actually create the story? Like, you need to have your financial model that shows that this makes economic sense. You need to show why your team is the team to actually do this. What is your business model? How does this thing actually make money? How are you going to go to market? How do you reach your customers? Who are your customers? So it's kind of working on that overall. It's not simply the pitch deck, but just the overall strategy and concept of what is the business, and helping them kind of think through these details further, identify key parts that are missing, and then kind of strengthen those, as well as identify key strengths of the business too, to say you need to highlight this because this is very important and gives you a competitive edge. So I'd say that's kind of been number two, is working with them, as you mentioned, for example, on the pitch competition from yesterday, being able to help them tell that story so that people clearly understand what they're trying to do and how they can help make that possible. Say kind of the third aspect to it is then going into how do you fund and support that vision? So depending on the stage, right, you've got more early stage research. We need to actually create a product. So you're looking at more like R&D grant, maybe government funding kind of sources versus, okay, we're kind of got the product nailed down. We need to have ensure that we have all the customer buy-in and show proof that there is actual market demand for it. And then finally, as you're getting to more scale up type questions, where do we go to find the money to actually put the large scale equipment together? What does this look like as I try and actually make this at scale so that it's can reach the widest market that it can?
Awesome. Thank you. And I would take a minute to remind our audience, if you have any questions, please put it through Q&A, and then we'll come back to them in just a minute. But Ryan, kind of, it's important to kind of understand what you and Bob just said about the biggest needs for the companies. But what do you think are some of the critical focus areas now that you have like a taste of the companies and where they are? What do you think there will be the next focus for them going forward?
Like I said, it kind of depends on which stage they're at. So for the more of the earlier stage, kind of, they have created the technology and now they're trying to figure out, is there a business, is there a product kind of component? I'd say constantly hammering into them the need to go out and talk to the customers, figuring out what the product actually needs to look like, what do their prospective customers want, and then working through the product development process with that end in mind. Since I know particularly on the research side, it can be, oh, that's kind of a cool idea, or I think this is interesting and worth learning about, and kind of refocusing it on, okay, I got to sell this at the end of the day. So I need people who want to buy it for what, businesses, if it's B2B, or end consumers, if it's more of a final product kind of thing. And then kind of hammering, okay, as you're developing this, you really, really, really need to talk to people so that you'll know what that minimum viable product is. And so I'd say that's kind of on the earlier stage. As you get into the later stage, folks, where they had to have a product and they have had those interviews and there are different markets that are interested. Okay, how do you actually build this into the business then, right? How do you what is the path to scale up? What is the path to the go-to-market? The more of the strategy aspect and nailing down those details so they know what it is they need to do to achieve whatever their target is. And in some cases, figuring out what that target should be. Should I be selling 10,000 widgets next year? And then how do I get there? What am I missing? What do I need from either customer buy-in or to be able to produce the material and things like that? And then ultimately, how do I support that vision? Is it best to do it organically through sales, through outside investment to speed production, kind of where that best fit is to actually execute the plan?
Thank you. And Bob, in your experience, what are the few critical areas of focus going forward?
Yeah, I think, I would build upon what Ryan said, and that is really helping the entrepreneur or the inventor understand what it's going to take to move this forward. And sometimes because of lack of experience, they might be a little bit myopic in the way they look at it. And so I look at part of my role is to help them look at the big picture, look at all that it's going to take, and really bake that into their thought process as they move forward. And so that's kind of the critical area of focus for me at this point. And again, as Ryan said, it depends on where they're at in the process, but most of the companies I'm working with a few exceptions, are in the beginning stages of putting that together.
Yep. So I have one more question for both of you, and then we can open the questions to audience. But I just wanted to learn and for fun, so something unique or exciting that you encountered in past few months working as EIRs for UTRF. Bob, you want to take it?
Yeah, I would say, basically, unlike Ryan, who has a background in academia, that's not my background. So I've been introduced to a world that is fairly new to me. And so getting to work with people who have great ideas, who are smart, very intelligent, and I'm learning a lot. So that's been a lot of fun for me.
Yep, it's a whole different world. And what about you, Ryan? Something unique or exciting?
I'd say for me, probably one of the funnest parts of the job is with several of these companies being able to hold the prototype, the actual product in the hand, say, like, wow, this is awesome. Some of them, for example, have been doing materials for like building construction, that kind of thing, and being able to like hold the time, but like, wow, if I was redoing my kitchen, I would actually want this. So it is kind of cool to be able to see what is, to be honest, could be very well the future of different industries here, not only in town, but across the country. So I've kind of found that part always fun and fascinating from the kind of the practical side of getting to hold the thing. I'd say also just another general part of it has been kind of being able to work with these different companies, help them get, think through kind of the pitches, the strategies, and so forth, and then they go out and present this to the wider world, and getting to watch kind of that iterative process as they get better, and they're able to achieve different victories and go after their goals. And so it's kind of almost in a mentor student kind of way, rewarding to see them grow and be able to achieve their dream.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And I think we have a few audience questions.
Yes, we do. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone. We have several questions. I'll start with the first one. They asked, to support research, do you have any limits on the number of principal investigators? And can more than one PI be part of the experiment design?
Yes, of course. I think we have no limits on PI specifically on a project. We very often work with complex projects with several people, and not just UT PIs, but other institutes. So, we are absolutely no restrictions on the number of PIs. You can be a lead PI, co-PI in whatever capacity. We are happy to help and talk to you if you have any further questions.
Perfect. Thank you. And for Bob and Ryan, someone asks, what's the biggest thing that has surprised you in the early months of your work as an EIR?
It's a thoughtful question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the biggest surprise for me was really what I call the drumbeat of the academic world, which tends to be different than what I experience in the commercial world, and just trying to understand what that drumbeat is, and in some ways get it to beat drum faster when needed, would be, I think, the biggest surprise for me.
I guess for my part, it kind of goes back to that bit about I talked about kind of get the companies organized is kind of the having been in the startup environment, I know that you're having to do lots of things all simultaneously, since particularly in the early days, you're everything when it comes to getting stuff done at the company. But seeing kind of how quickly certain things can kind of slip through the cracks and or kind of they put something quickly in place, but didn't there wasn't a lot of thought put into it, and kind of that level of disorganization that needs to go back and get fixed before we can really start scaling the kind of company. So I was a little surprised at the level of organization, but I guess in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have been.
Yep, that's how the academic world works sometimes.
Perfect, thank you. And now we have one for Kusum. Kusum, can you talk a bit about how to become an EIR and what the key criteria that UTRF looks for in potential EIRs are?
Like we've been talking, it's a new program. We would love for somebody to join our team as an EIR who has experience in different facets of business formation, be part of a startup to working for a big company. We would love for people to come from different fields of technology. We work with technologies from, like Bob said, like from, nuclear related technologies to medical and composites, recycling, waste management. So we would love for our EIRs to be from different fields of technologies and have experience in helping and coaching startups. So if you're interested, please reach out and we can talk and discuss and see how we can, fit each other's needs.
Thank you, Kusum. And kind of to build off of that, someone asked, when is the deadline to apply?
We don't have a specific deadline for this program. It's kind of a rolling program, but if you're interested and would like to learn more, please reach out to me. Our emails and phone numbers and everything are on our website, but we can share that as well in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a question for Bob and Ryan. Can you talk a little bit more about why you joined the EIR program, why you decided to add this onto your busy schedules?
I'll start off on this one, Bob. So for me, it was one of the reasons why I went and pursued the startup route myself was being in kind of that academic government environment. I would many times see good ideas kind of die in the lab. The idea was that it takes a lot to be able to take it out of that lab environment and actually translate it into a real product that can have real world impact. And so that's what kind of initially inspired me to look at pursuing that myself, take that idea on the journey all the way through to completion on the other end as something that is making a difference. And so, having enjoyed going through that process myself, I wanted to be able to continue to participate and help other folks as they're going through that journey as well of taking things out of the lab now and how do I bring it to the real world so that it can actually have substantial change for our community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, number one, I like the challenge. I mean, it's a new program for UTRF, and I've spent my career building things. And so it was an opportunity to do that. Also, for me, it was an opportunity to make a difference. And when you think about one's career, you always know that there were people along the way that were very helpful in helping you be successful. And so I looked at this program as an opportunity for me to kind of give back and help people along. And so that's why I was excited about joining the team.
Awesome. Do we have more questions, Raven?
Looks like we have one more right now. Someone asked, what does a typical day look like? And I think that could go out to all three of you.
Well, number one, there is no typical day. From as working through this program, it can be, you can be involved in all the companies in one day, or you can deal with one on a day, and then it just varies. And so I think you got to be flexible based on people's schedules and what's required and things of that nature. So, and quite frankly, the joy about this is there is no typical day. And so that would be my answer.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. It's a very dynamic role in the sense that you kind of have to work not only around different people's schedules, but what are they actually working on? What is kind of the objective? So it can be everything from I'm pouring through legalese documents saying, okay, maybe you need to rethink this, or different comments, things like that, or pro forma stuff like that. But then it can be as simple as we're taking a walk down on the path over on the Cherokee Farms by Ion by the river, discussing kind of what is the best way to deliver this information when I go to this pitch competition to present. Kind of what should my opening be that would actually kind of hook and bring in this particular audience, or what are my kind of objectives there? Again, it really depends from going to their lab directly to examine what they're working on, figure out, how can we tweak stuff around the product, to more document focused work. So it really depends kind of what the need is and how urgent people need certain things.
Yep, you're both are right. Like, there's never a typical day. Tech transfer and entrepreneurship is not for the faint of the heart. It's something different every single day. So, yeah, definitely mirror that.
Thank you all. And we do have one more question for Kusum. What are your hopes for the program in the coming months and years?
Our hope generally as UTRF is that we can provide more help to our budding startup industry, make them more successful, provide them all the support and help we can to become successful businesses. And hopefully that leads to the bigger mission of UTRF in developing entrepreneurial culture and lead to the economic development of the state and the region. So that's our long-term goal with this program and several others to create a entrepreneurial culture, a successful entrepreneurial culture in the state of Tennessee. And I think Raven shared my email and phone number on the chat. So if you have any other questions, or if you're interested in the program or learning more about, please reach out and we'll be happy to answer any questions. So I don't think there are any further questions. That's correct, right?
Okay, so we did just have one more. Someone asked, does this program only apply to UTK innovators and companies, or is it system-wide?
Yeah, this is a system-wide initiative. We would love to have our EIRs present in other campuses all across the state, Chattanooga, Nashville, Memphis. If you're listening to us from there, if you know of somebody, if you think you are a potential EIR, we would love to hear from you. We would, obviously want it to be a statewide effort, and we can help our startups and entrepreneurs all across the state. So yeah, it's a system-wide program. UTRF is a system-wide organization, and we would, want to mirror this all across the state. I think that's all the questions. I would like to thank audience for jumping in for this lunch and learn, and would love to thank Piper Communications and Innov865 community to include us in this during the startup week. And big thanks to Bob and Ryan for generally what they do for us, and for us to and also to hop in here and setting it, cameras and everything with us and working. So thank you all, and thank you, Piper Communications and Raven on our side to make it work. It's always challenging when we are on screens, but looks like it worked. So thank you all. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out.